As everyone is aware, and I'm sure of the unfortunate incident that the Gretna Police Department has experienced with one of our officers making an inappropriate post on Facebook concerning Congresswoman Cortez, and the information was brought to us by the advocate who had discovered the post. We got that information Friday evening and immediately opened an internal investigation into the matter. Since that time, the officer involved was placed on administrative leave, unpaid leave. The investigation was conducted. The officer did fully cooperate with the investigation, gave a statement, and was terminated earlier today from the Gretna Police Department. Along with that, and in part of the investigation, in our internal affairs found that a second officer was involved and liked the post, and that officer as well has been terminated from the Gretna Police Department. Both of these officers we consider have violated our policies regarding social media. We have a zero tolerance policy. This incident, we feel, has been an embarrassment to our department, that these officers have certainly acted in a manner in which was unprofessional, alluding to a violent act to be conducted against a sitting U.S. congressman, a member of our government. We're not going to tolerate that. We have received, as I'm sure you can imagine, numerous calls from media, numerous calls from the public. We feel that we have done our due diligence. We are going to move forward. We have trained our officers, made them aware of our policy. We have done training in the past and starting back in numerous years. In fact, the sad part is in July, our officer presently undergone training at the time of this incident regarding our policies and procedures in diversity as well as in social media. So, we're going to continue with that. We're going to intensify our training. We're also looking at other training. We train through Police One, which is a national standard in training, as well as individual training and in-house training we have done. We, as I said, not only have terminated the employee who initiated this post, but in doing so, we have terminated a second employee. Angelo Varisco was the employee of the second one. We have also been in contact with Facebook because the original post was taken down, and to determine if we have any other employees that were involved. We're waiting for that information from Facebook and waiting for their response. So therefore, we still have an open investigation at this time until we get that final information from Facebook. So, sure.
David Hammer, WWL. Chief, can you give us any information about the officers, how long they've been on the force, and spell the officer's name as well as the
Okay, sure. Varisco was an officer first class. It's Angelo, Angelo, Varisco. He was a part of a court security division. Neither one of these individuals were police officers that were on the road, have never worked the road. Varisco was part of the court security and government security building, actually worked in security at City Hall, in the security there, and in city court security. He was hired on 11/1/16. The other officer was, as you know, Officer First Class Charles Rispoli, and it's Rispoli. He was hired on 4/1/2005. Neither of these officers have had an abundance of arrest. We went back and checked that to see their interaction with prisoners, people that they had arrested. Both officers have, Rispoli, since 2005, has only had 2 arrests. Both of those have occurred when he was in court security, were incidents that occurred in a courtroom with defendants. Same thing with Varisco, 2 arrests since his career here at the Gretna Police Department. Both of those were involving people within the government buildings that were there. So not a whole lot of incidents where they were involved with resisting or anything like that of use of force. So.
But Rispoli also was majority in the courts or government buildings, or is there anything?
He was in the bailiff in the courts for a while, and then was in the home incarceration program where he supervised individuals, and that was his present function. Supervised individuals who are in the home incarceration program that were placed in home incarceration by the courts.
Chief, what's your message to your other officers after this?
Well, you know, that we're taking this serious, that this is something that they need to be made aware of. I mean, you know, it's very, very disappointing. You know, as I said, we've trained, we've tried to make them aware of the situation. You know, as I'm sure you're aware, there's been other incidents across this country that have happened in other areas. Those articles I picked up off of the news. We made copies of those articles several weeks back and passed them on to our officers to try to make them aware. And, you know, with all of those efforts, something like this still happens. And that's very disturbing. You know, I mean, it certainly shows a lack of the officers paying attention to what's going on in the world around them. You know, and you know, the officer, I spoke to him personally, you know, just to try to find out why. I just couldn't understand, and I think he just got caught up in the heat of the moment. I mean, this wasn't even a real news article, and you know, and it wasn't over. It was over an article about a position with the military, and I think that's what sparked it. It wasn't race, and it wasn't anything else, and it was about the military, and you know, he just got caught up in the moment, and that's what caused it.
The fact that right there on the post it says it's satire right on the photograph, did that factor into your response as well? The fact that it's so clearly a joke?
Whether it was a joke or it wasn't a joke, it was improper. You know, I mean, to make a comment like that, to insinuate a violent act against an individual, against an elected official, against a seated U.S. congressman, you know, against a United States government official. Look, we've seen this. We experienced an act like this here. You know, Congressman Steve Scalise was a victim of this type of incident. So, you know, it's just completely irresponsible and intolerable.
What about a message to the community as someone who's sworn and they were supposed to protect the community? They might have a gun on them, but then they make a post like this. What's the message to the community?
Well, and that's the part that's certainly disheartening. You know, do I think that this individual meant any violence? No, I don't think that was the case. And speaking, this officer, this individual was a very mild-mannered person. He's not a controversial person. He's very mild-mannered and spoken. Never has had a disciplinary problem since he's been employed here. Not the type of person you would expect this from. I think we just got caught up in the heat of the moment and you know, posted, and actually said after he posted it, he realized very quickly that he shouldn't have done it and took it down. But by then, it was too late. You know, and it's like anything else. Sometimes you make a decision and realize you made a bad one, but you still made a bad decision.
Chief, the second officer that was terminated, you said he liked the post?
Mhm.
So that was his involvement?
That was his involvement. I spoke to him as well, you know, and just explained that we're not going to tolerate it. It's, you know, even though he wasn't the originator of the post, it's you know, if whether you with the originator, you liked it or shared it, it's still, you participated in it, and it's something that we're not going to tolerate.
The fact that the original post on Tater's Gonna Take was, this website was intended to draw out this kind of thing as a trolling of people on the right, on the political right, are you concerned that the intent was to get someone like this fired?
You know, I don't know what their intent was, Dave. You know, I mean, if that was their intent, it worked. You know, it certainly took someone and exposed a weakness or that they had and cost them their career, and cost two people their careers. And it's sad. It's a sad day that you know, you see it in social media where people don't read what they're reading. You know, I mean, and they don't comprehend what they're reading and take a caption and react and you know, and read a headline and react to it, and it's a shame. But it's the world we're living in now, and you know, it's sad, but you know, it's something we just can't tolerate. We can't have our officers, and you know, it's a tough lesson, but hopefully it's a lesson learned, not only by our department, by a lot of other law enforcement agencies as well, and law enforcement officers, you know, throughout this area, throughout the state, and throughout the country. You know.
Over the past year or so, we've seen a lot of people commenting. Sometimes it's high school students posting about threats on social media. Do you think this is a teachable moment that people should take social media seriously?
Yeah, you know, I do. I can assure you we're going to use it as a situation to certainly teach our officers, and the public should. I mean, you know, people who work in government, people who work in jobs that are sensitive in nature, should certainly take this as a learning experience and something that, you know, they react to and don't think of it in the manner that it's taken, and think of it just as an innocent comment. You know, and realize the repercussions. I mean, this was a ripple in a pond that became a tidal wave.